Hey everybody, welcome to Neil Talks. My name's Neil and it's time to talk QI. Brief intro here today, guys. This is another viewer recommendation, just like all my QI reactions. And we are going to a recent series, Series R. I do want to jump into Series T for those of you who are asking, but I am waiting for two things. First, I'm waiting for the XL versions to come out and be available on YouTube. And secondly, I'm waiting for recommendations from you, my audience. Which episodes of this most recent series, Series T, should I definitely check out first? So, until I get those, I'm going to continue to work my way through the back catalog. And this one takes us to Series R, like I said, Episode 4. This one's called Restaurant.
Tonight, we are absolutely ravenous for the rich repository of recipes that is the QI restaurant. Rolling a rhubarb roulade, it's Sara Pascoe.
I've had a bunch of Sara episodes lately.
Reducing a recherche ragout, it's Mark Watson.
I haven't seen Mark since
Relishing
Taskmaster.
his remarkable relish, it's Phill Jupitus. And reheating a reduced ready meal, it's Alan Davies. Mark goes...
Yes, Jeff!
Ah, very good. Sarah goes...
Oh, they're under cloches. Very nice. Sorry, chef.
Why would you want to eat in a restaurant with a heavy fork and nothing fresh on the menu?
Is it because you're in space?
The great restaurant in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then if there was one, then the heavy fork would stop it floating away.
Doesn't really work that with gravity. If the people are floating away, the fork's not going to be stuck.
It's like somebody direct from NASA.
I think the space thing sounded quite plausible.
You like that,
actually.
you think?
Yeah, because in space you can't have anything fresh. Can
Okay.
you?
They grow things in space,
It's
don't
nothing
they?
to do with space.
The
Eating
fork in the road.
Is it to do with space?
She starts throwing the hat around, you know you're in trouble, Mark Watson.
OK, none of this is working. The higher-end restaurants, they tend not to describe food as fresh. They don't describe it as tasty, they don't describe it as ripe, because the customers in the high-end restaurants expect it to be those things. In fact, in posh restaurants, they tend to use kind of sexy terminology.
We got a topless chicken and we put it under the grill. Ooh, that's been naughty.
This sandwich will wank you off.
We've all thought it. We've all thought
She broke Sandi.
What's wrong with... No! And here is the bizarre thing. People enjoy their food more with heavy cutlery. It is one of the most bizarre things.
Yeah. Was there any point when the fork became too heavy?
Yeah, there's diminishing returns at some point
What
on
you
that.
might have done now inadvertently is inspired cheap restaurants to glue their forks to the table.
One of the ways that restaurants trick you into spending a bit more money, did anybody know?
Hypnotism.
Hypnotism.
Would you like the veal?
I certainly order it.
Specials.
They remove the pound sign from menus.
Oh, yeah.
Our brain kind of doesn't turn that into dollars or pounds. If you just have the number, subconsciously, we don't think about the cost of things. Has anybody ever been to a restaurant with a ladies' menu?
Ladies'
A
man.
ladies' menu.
No prices
I've
at
never
all.
been into the ladies in a restaurant. Are they doing food in there? Because I'm going to...
It is ladies' menu, anybody?
Ladies' menu.
No prices.
So it's a menu with no prices on whatsoever. And,
Because the bitch ain't paying.
because...
Yeah.
I'm really shocked. Men should have a revolution. You should say something.
Yeah, we're hard done by.
What's the worst trouble you can get into with one of these? Right. Would you like one?
It's the worst trouble you can get him with the roll.
Thanks, Mum.
Okay.
If the glasses come off a second time, it starts to...
Hey, there we go.
Don't
right.
cut that. I'd say you can get into a bit of trouble if you painted it black, wrote bomb on it, and then went to an airport.
So bread has always been a staple food. I mean, we've probably, as human beings, been eating bread for about 30,000 years. If they can't afford it or it's not available, there have been riots and...
French Revolution.
French Revolution, indeed, started by the women in the market over the price of bread. So one way in which to control...
Should have given them the women's menu.
other ways in which you can control it, and indeed the bakers, is to form guilds. And it gave special privileges to bakers and families.
Sorry, guilds.
Guilds?
I thought you said gills, like fish head.
Guilds?
Yeah, it's much more difficult to form gills, I think. You sort of either have them or you don't, really.
Why do they offer you from a basket? Which bread would you like?
Yeah, I know.
I'll have the
I like
nicest
that.
one, please. Which
Yeah.
is the nicest one?
I've not touched mine because it turns out it's the one on the left is meant to be the one you eat. Stuff like that.
OK, there's a really easy rule. Under the table, if you make this sign like this, this one, when you look at it, forms a B, and this one forms a D. The bread that is
this is
yours is
where
on
she
this
wanked
side,
you
and the
off.
drink is on this side.
And it's like sitting next to a naughty boy at school. Because you were doing this, like, really in a wanky way.
Poor Sandy, she's so multifaceted, but this is one skill that she has never developed.
Anybody know what
So
baker's
bread
dozen
and
is?
drink?
13.
13, isn't it?
So in medieval Britain, the law, they were forced to sell bread by the weight rather than the price of each loaf. So they got into the habit of making a 13th loaf just to make sure that the total weight not too low. The Romans, they wanted to make sure that bakers were saved from vice, so they were forbidden by law from hanging out with gladiators or comedians.
Quite right,
Yeah, no,
What
that's
about
just
Eureka Johnson?
good life advice.
The very first time you were caught adulterating your bread, you were dragged on a hurdle through the streets. The third time, it was not so good. You were dragged through the streets, your oven was dismantled, you were forced to swear that you would never practice the trade of baking
It
again.
slightly lost me at the word adulterate.
Yeah, adulterating your bread, it means sleeping with bread that you're not married to.
Yeah.
Why would you keep doing that? If you've got hard bread that's gone hard, you just put it in a sink full of water and then put it in the oven. It's not noticeable.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it comes to the table a little bit warm. You think, oh, freshly baked.
Oh, I see.
No, recently dunked in the sink
Really?
and then dried out in the oven.
Bread and potatoes were rationed in Britain in the 1940s, of course, because of...
The war?
The Atkins?
Were potatoes bigger or children smaller?
Well, those are head-sized taters.
No, it was to do with the weather. Soon after the war, there were very heavy rains and very bad frosts, so we're talking about 1946 and 1947, and then rationing of bread and potatoes came in. So they did a test in 1939 to see if Britain could deal without all of that protein. 8 human guinea pigs were sent to live in the Lake District.
Oh, lovely.
I know. But they were put on a special diet. They were given as much wholemeal bread and potatoes as they could eat. The result was, fundamentally, a huge increase in flatulence. There was also 250% more voluminous fecal matter amongst the participants.
See, that's what ruins the holiday.
Yeah.
They're shitting in jars.
Yeah. You've been on that sort of holiday.
Just the
The
once.
writer's retreat.
Kids were given blackcurrant syrup free during World War II. Does anybody know why?
Scurvy?
It is scurvy, exactly. Blackcurrants were grown domestically. Totally unknown in the United States. Why?
Because of the Ribena Wars of 1870.
Just sort of not far off, really.
What? Ribena
The
Wars?
American logging industry had a campaign.
Is that like the Lake District logging industry? Pretty sure I saw voluminous faecal matter at Hammersmith Odeon in 1974.
I've got one of their shirts in the closet.
It has a disease that can threaten the white pine, and so blackcurrant was banned in the United States.
So the Americans have never had Ribena?
They don't care
It's not
for
a
it.
That explains
not a
it.
North American
It
thing.
doesn't it?
Also, big citrus industry in the U.S., in California and Florida.
This cake, which was the wedding cake, was called the 10,000-mile cake. Why was it called that?
Did it travel a long way?
Some of the
came from
ingredients
South
must have.
Africa and Australia. The recipe for a 10,000, in case anybody wants to make it at home, there we are. 60 pounds of butter, 55 pounds of sugar, 75 pounds of flour, 660 eggs, 3.5 gallons of navy rum.
Or as I call that list, last Thursday.
Anybody know if there was rationing in World War One?
All overseas, when it was a away fixture, that war.
Yeah, it was avoided actually until 1918.
Unaway fixture.
If you look at the fixture list, it said France, brackets, away.
Yeah.
German submarines created a blockade, so in 1918, and that did lead to food shortages, but the countermeasures are so wonderfully British. Feeding pigeons was banned. And And then they limited restaurant meals to 2 courses for lunch and 3 courses for dinner.
Such austerity.
Why is my cellar riddled with Frenchmen?
That's a matter for your own conscience.
Oh no, well,
really.
you riddle champagne bottles, don't you, by giving them the twists? That's called riddling, right? Or am I completely wrong?
It's the July Revolution of 1830. It's
Oh,
another
they're
thing.
always having revolutions.
I don't know why the woman had to have a top off.
Because I think
Sexy.
what it is to get you interested.
Do you want to be free? What if I got my tits out?
I think maybe the little boy has shot her bra strap off. I think
We've all done it as kids.
a riddler is the person whose job it is to rotate bottles of
Yes,
wine. Now, why might they do that? Why might they...
Stop the sediment.
Yeah, nobody wants to buy a bottle of wine with bits of yeast sediment in it, so they have to be slowly removed. Professional riddlers can turn and tilt 40,000 to 70,000 bottles a day. I mean, he just looks like a terrible date, doesn't he? It's just
That's his actual job.
Unfortunately, they are now being replaced by robots.
But he might be able to do something more interesting with his life. I think some things robots
with his
should
life.
do.
Not the knees, not the knees.
The pressure in here is 3 times that of a car tyre. And the cork can fly out. Have a guess, the speed of the cork.
I'll just get out of the way.
No, sorry, I haven't taken the...
Get your glasses off, Mark.
I'm going to guess 800 miles an hour.
8,000, 8,000.
8 million. 8 million.
Wow,
80
Okay.
Oh, is it less than that? Is it...
55 miles an hour.
kilometers in.
About the speed of an average van.
And I'm going to open it in a rather spectacular way in a minute.
Like being in a kitchen.
Is she
as a
gonna
student.
sabre
Has
it?
that got a fag butt in it?
Is with
A sword.
a sword
Oh,
in. I would like to introduce you to someone who can do just that.
Wow.
Please
No.
welcome Julian the Magnificent.
Is that really his... Gosh, get the outfit.
You are a member of La Confrérie de Sabrador.
You have indeed, and I'm the Ambassador Emeritus.
Isn't that fantastic?
So you're retired.
You are spoiling it.
How did you come to be able to do this?
Well, I get a thirst around about 11 o'clock every
Yes,
morning.
Absolutely.
Because if you're called Julian the Magnificent, it's a shame if you just end up working in a stationery shop or...
No. But you work in the wine trade, do you not?
I do indeed.
Yes.
Working Weatherspoons.
I know about Weatherspoons now.
I was told that for health and safety reasons we cannot actually do this.
Oh,
set.
come on.
However, if you all agree, shall we just do it?
Yeah!
We were the night at the studio when Sandi Toksvig lost her hand.
Are you okay to stand this
Nelly.
close?
No problem at all, because I'm going to be shooting it over there.
Okay. All right.
Right up Mark.
Yeah.
Off we go.
Yeah.
You can drink that perfectly, because no glass will go inside, as you quite rightly said earlier.
Right.
I mean, this is why you hire Julian the
And
Magnificent.
is there like
Can I learn how to do it?
You can indeed.
Okay.
It takes 3 seconds.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I love how we got around health and safety by just asking if everyone's cool in
Am I
the
left hand,
audience.
yes?
So you'll thumb up the punt.
But what if there was like
Thumb up the punt.
Punt it.
one tosser in the audience who's like, no, I don't feel comfortable with this? Then they have to stop?
You never take the blade off the glass.
No.
It's a shaving motion. You go straight up there
Yeah.
and follow through. Don't stop. Off you go.
That's terrifying.
Oh my God!
Now I want to savor a bottle of champagne.
Un Londonere per de la vigne et de Saint Vincent patron de vigne. Je vous nomme Sabreuse dans l'ordre de la confrérie du Sabrador.
All right.
Oh, marvellous. That really actually exciting.
It's really amazing.
It was exciting. It was very
It is
exciting.
the most fun you'll have with all your clothes on. It really is.
Julian the Magnificent!
The coolest thing anyone's ever done.
That was so cool.
That was very cool.
There's the one you cut. Look at the cleanliness of that.
It was
Pretty
brutal.
cool.
I'm not exaggerating. That is one of the most exciting things that's ever happened.
Fast forward to 3 years' time, Toksvig outside of Tesco's with a Swiss Army knife and a bottle of Diamond Bun.
I was the bake-off host.
Champagne cellars are riddled with riddlers, although it's nothing to whine about.
Oh, now you're back down to earth with a bump.
Whose phone?
Who's that? Which one of you is
No,
that? Sorry.
I'm really sorry, bud. It's the Danish ambassador. He wants to know where you left the key to the herring fridge.
That's not the Danish ambassador. Look at what it says on there. It says Piers Morgan. Don't worry about your phone, because I'll put it in a box of rice and let it dry out, because that's a good idea, isn't it?
Is that a trick question?
Yes.
Oh, come on, Phil. You knew.
Making it now, chef.
No.
If you put a phone in a closed container with rice, less water is lost than if you just left it out in an open room. If it does survive, it would have done anyway.
So who's the first person who said, oh, don't worry about that, I'll pop it in some rice for you?
He was an arsehole. Also, don't blow it with a hairdryer. Very, very bad idea.
I'm hearing a lot of don'ts. I just want a good do. Just leave it out in a room.
Cat litter is probably your best option.
But that's going to get stuck in all the ports, too.
Does anybody know why rice is grown in flooded fields?
Oh, when you plant it, birds can't get the seedlings.
It doesn't need to be
Doesn't
grown
need to be.
in water at all, but it doesn't mind.
Doesn't mind it.
It does. No, you're just going to repeat everything
It's all
I
right
say.
with it.
Oh, fine. And they actually employ ducks and fish
Oh,
to swim around
fertilizer.
and nibble at the pests that
How do they do
otherwise-
PAYE? When... that isn't your real phone, is it?
It's
It was
really...
the most bizarre sketch. I couldn't follow it at all. So the Danish ambassador rang you.
He was lying about the Danish ambassador, and it actually says on the phone that Piers Morgan...
It wasn't a real phone call.
Why was Piers Morgan ringing you then?
I didn't know about the Piers Morgan thing.
I was trying to have a go at Phil that Piers Morgan might be his friend.
There were some plot holes in it, Alan.
If I'm not hooked from the beginning...
It gets good in episode 2.
Yeah.
Previously on QI.
Piers Morgan's the Danish ambassador.
What does this clown eat?
Is that the original Ronald?
Ronald McDonald, yeah.
It is the original Ronald McDonald. What does he eat?
Burger King.
One child for every Happy Meal party.
They know, Phil.
The very first Ronald McDonald was a guy called Willard Scott. That's him there. He was eventually fired for being too fat. But he became incredibly famous in the United States. He was a weatherman on American television, and he did an ad for Burger King.
Is he being held at gunpoint in this?
No, he's just doing a Nixon impersonation.
I always thought Ronald McDonald was rather frightening.
Yeah.
All clowns are.
Well, if you would like to shorten your life, the best place to go is the Heart Attack Grill in Las Vegas. You can eat for free if you weigh over 350 pounds, and their signature quadruple bypass burger is just a shade under 10,000 calories. It's 20 strips of bacon, 8 slices of American cheese. I say cheese, it's American cheese.
Yeah.
Lard.
Craft singles.
OK, I've only got one question, Sandy. Do they have a ladies' menu?
If you finish it, your nurse will deliver you to your car in a wheelchair.
And then do we know anything about faecal matter?
Oh, I imagine we...
It's voluminous.
If you don't finish it, she will spank you in front of the other diners.
Really?
Are you sure this is a real restaurant, not a dream?
It is a real restaurant. They do have a vegan option.
It's a vegan.
The only vegan option on the menu is cigarettes. How many calories do you gain from eating celery?
Is it one of these things where you expend more calories eating it than you actually
say that,
gain?
don't say
There's
that.
You can tell it's Mark's first time.
New boy!
No.
No.
And there is a net gain of energy. Obviously, it isn't very much.
The bearded dragon, of course, only started appearing about 5 years ago and are mostly baristas or work in vintage shops.
I think that one's a pencil sharpener.
That is weird, isn't it? Yeah. The closest we can find to a negative energy food is sugar-free gum. If you chew 100 times a minute for approximately 11 minutes, it becomes negatively calorific.
Okay.
But so does life, doesn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah. To prevent bacteria, what should your chopping board be made of?
Oh, wood.
Plastic.
Yes, is exactly right.
Oh.
Can I tell you why I know this?
Yes, go on.
Because an ex-boyfriend bought me a chopping board for Christmas. But part of the reason it was a good present was him explaining that actually it was good for bacteria.
Boxing Day, his head was on it.
But the most important thing, of course, is to wash them and then replace them when they get a bit knackered.
But again, eventually we're all going to die. Count.
That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you an extra point for that. Yeah. Which is the hottest part of a chili?
Not the seeds.
Be careful if you've just chopped it and then you go for a wee. That's all I'm...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no. Good advice. It's the membrane.
Is it the bit that holds the seeds in?
It is, it's the pith.
The pith?
Yeah.
It's the pith. So,
Just like you say, going for a wee.
Is it? Is it a fruit or a vegetable?
it contains seeds, so it's a fruit.
Ham is a berry.
Nothing. Yeah. Rice Krispies are a legume. we just don't talk about it.
The hottest chili in the world is something called Pepper X. It was grown by an American who's rather pleasingly called Ed Curry. 3 million on the Scoville scale.
Can you die from...
You
Yes.
absolutely can die from
Oh.
it. It would cause blisters in your body. And the body's defences would go into overdrive. You
So much snot would come out of your nose, you'd drown.
would go into anaphylactic shock. Your airways could end up closing. It's not a good thing.
So why did they do it, Sandi?
Well, it's boys. Boys are gonna
It's boys.
We're going to play a game of Beer Hunter.
Beer hunter. Okay.
So,
I don't like the
Oh no.
That's Mark's.
okay.
They're of slightly different heights, or is that
Okay.
just the camera angle? Okay.
Let's have a go at opening.
No.
Tell
Do
me
the
what
uh,
you
tap,
do
tap, tap thing.
Do some tapping. So
Yeah.
this is going to help.
Well, this is an Essex trick.
Whoa.
Okay.
Fizzy.
So not that one. Alan.
Will it?
Okay, not that one. Mark.
Well, the more this game goes on, the worse feeling I have about it.
Phyllis?
Wow.
Do the Essex thing.
Which of those cans had the highest pressure?
Oh, they all
Well,
have the
they're
same
all
pressure.
equal, right?
Yeah. It's about 3 atmospheres, no matter how much you shake it.
Fizzy water's the worst one.
Yeah, it can bring it, and then brings all the
Oh,
liquid
my
up.
God! Open it, close it again! A little bit, close it! you can't even tell, you can see it. Is it going to do it? I don't know. It's doing it! It's still doing it!
The one thing that you'd learn from like barbecues was that if you've poured someone a drink and it's fizzy, put your finger in it, and you can't do that when you work in a bar.
No. People think tapping it top and bottom makes no difference whatsoever because the gas is already exactly what you want.
Doing it now.
Yeah.
What you need to do is tap the sides.
What?
And dislodge the bubbles so that they rise to the top.
Sandi, you're changing my life. This is useful drinking information.
It's quite interesting.
That's what we have the BBC for.
I know, right? How could you change the pressure in the can?
Heat it up.
Heat it up, yes. Any other ways? Reduce the volume. So if you crushed the can.
Tell her that whatever happens, you'll love it.
In first place, our triple Michelin star is, with 3 points, Alan.
Oh!
-4 at Sarah. In equal last place with -18, it's Phil and Mark. I read one survey that said 70% of British married couples would rather eat a good meal at a restaurant than have sex, and that's because it might disturb the people at the other tables, I expect. Thank you and good night.
You can always tell who the new person on the show is. The first-time guest. But what I don't get is, do these people not watch QI before coming on QI? Do you not sense, like, I've never been on QI, but if I ever was invited on, I would know where the trick questions were, and I wouldn't be saying silly things like celery has negative calories, because you can sense the setups. They're everywhere. Every so often there's a double bluff, but 99 times out of 100, they're just set up the common knowledge, the common knowledge that is in fact incorrect. this was a fun. I mean, it's always a fun episode, but the sabering, that's super cool. What I need to know, like, I would love to try and saber a bottle of champagne, but it seems to me, it sucks for the recycling industry. Uh, I don't know why that's my first thought, but it's like you can't reuse that bottle now. And B, where do you like? Will any saber do? Will other swords like? I have my grandfather's military cutlass. Would that manage the job, or do I need like a champagne saber? Is it a particular weapon? I can't imagine. Well, who knows? There's a whole cult of caped gentlemen overseeing the business, it seems. The beer can info is much more important. Tapping on the sides. I certainly grew up knowing that I had to tap on the top before opening to reduce the pressure, to reduce the chance of spurtage. But the tapping on the sides, that's useful to know. I half is shotgunning a can of beer a thing at all in the UK? Because that's very much a rite of passage with North American youth, where, and I don't know why we do this. Is it's stupid drinking things, right? But you take your can of beer, you punch a hole in the bottom of the side at the bottom with like a penknife or keys or whatever you've got on hand, and then you put your mouth to that hole and then crack the top, and the change in pressure makes it a really quick pour out, and it's just a challenge to see if you can basically drink the entire beer in one go that way. Do they shotgun beers in the UK? Let me know. I'm sure they have boat races. I learned all about boat racing in my uni days. Four people to a team, 2 pints each. Drink one, next guy, next guy, next guy, and then back down the line. It's all a big race. That's got to have UK origins to it. I'd be mind blown if it didn't. What other stupid things do we do when we drink? Anyway, let me know in the comments what odd cultural drinking activities there are in your neck of the woods. This was a weird one in that we went off on some odd tangents, especially early. Sara and Mark couldn't let go of dining in space. The heavy cutlery thing, though, I think they didn't talk about it during the episode, but it kind of makes sense to me because I think consciously or subconsciously we equate heavier cutlery with more expensive cutlery, and if the cutlery is expensive, then the food is nicer. Like your nice special occasion cutlery, probably the silverware, the family silverware, probably weighs more than your day-to-day stuff, which weighs more than cheap plastic cutlery you get at takeout. That's kind of how my mind works. If you've got flimsy, lightweight cutlery, then it all affects the dining experience. That makes total sense to me. I've certainly seen the removal of pound signs and not pound signs, but dollar signs from menus. That's a very common thing in higher end restaurants out here. And I thought it was just an interesting style, but yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like money anymore. And they also don't like normally if I was to write out $25.90, it would be $25.90. And that gets translated to 25.9, so losing that second decimal spot further removes it from how we perceive money visually. Very interesting. And yes, I knew about the ladies' menus. I'm not sure I've ever actually come across that in a restaurant. That seems like a very old-fashioned style thing where the man is just presumed to be the payer, and heaven forbid that we should trouble the lady with the price of the items. But I certainly didn't know about that. That's interesting. And I couldn't help but think during the champagne riddling segment before we got onto the sabering that wouldn't it be interesting if the Batman villain was just really good at turning champagne bottles 90 degrees at a time. Just a thought. Anyway, thank you guys so much for spending some time here today on Neil Talks. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments and your recommendations for future reactions. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, take care, stay healthy. We'll see you soon. Cheers.